pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Almighty God and Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather and to conduct the business of this wonderful town and community. Pray that you would guide us in wisdom and providence to do so according to the best of our abilities. Pray that we would treat each other with respect and honor what we are here for. Pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Yep.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. First on the agenda is public hearing. Sir Cap.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Madam Mayor and Town Council, we advertised, actually the closing attorney did, advertised in the paper for a public hearing for us to sell $75,000 of bond to SIRCAP, which means that we are going to borrow $75,000 from SIRCAP. Okay? In other words, we are passing a bond tonight, and this you'll have a resolution in your package. We are passing a bond in accordance to the Virginia Public Fund Act that we are going to borrow $75,000 from SIRCAP. And we also are getting $75,000 grant from SIRCAP, as you guys know, for a total of $150,000 for the upgrade of the import pump station. And this is a public hearing for anyone who wants a copy of the resolution or the financing package. I have copies. If you can understand it, it was written by a lawyer. Don't write that in there. Two lawyers wrote it. Actually, our bond counsel wrote it, and a lawyer for SIRCAP wrote the agreement. And Tommy, here's a copy for you. And you can read it and add anything you like, if you like Tommy explain. Give you a quick history, I think, because you guys remember. We don't need to put that in minutes. That we started this in August of 2013. We submitted the application to SIRCAP. Everyone remembers that. We didn't get approved until March, so it took 7 months for them to process the paperwork. Actually, they sent it to us in January. Our closing attorney didn't like the package, if you remember. It was too thick, it was too wordy. The agreement was, and our closing attorney since March has been working with SIRCAP and narrowed it down to 4 or 5 pages for financing instead of the several pages that SIRCAP had originally. And that's why it's taken so long.
So this is actually, the closing's going to be May 30th,
That we're shooting for the end of the month, yes, sir, Roger.
and the project's actually going to start and finish after May 30th.
That's correct.
Starts, and so it's going to be,
We have to advertise, after we close, we'll receive $75,000 in a lump sum. With that money, the engineers will advertise for the 3 new pumps. It would be advertised like a construction bid. And we'll purchase the pumps, hopefully for the $75,000 that we have. And that's probably a 2 to 3 month lead time in those pumps. There are 3 new variable speed pumps. And then we were advertised, went through sometime in that time frame, I'm not sure, construction installation of those 3 pumps separately. And that should be $75,000 also.
So that, the money comes from the loan proceeds, and then we get the grant after the project's finished?
And we have to spend the loan money first before we get the
And
grant.
submit the reimbursement for the 75, or the balance of?
Hopefully, we will not spend any of our money. We get $75,000 loan. We sent out a bid for the purchase of the pumps, buy the pumps, submit an invoice, get reimbursed. Then we spend the $75,000, and then we ask for, since we spent the loan, we ask for the $75,000 grant money. We'll use that $75,000 in grant money for the installation and construction of the pump station.
I don't know, with Jeff not here, do you know if the pumps, the newer pumps need so much construction and reinstallation?
It's not mostly, it is not mostly construction, it's mostly installation and a lot new electrical work.
Right. Well, I was in robotics for about 20 years, so I did plant maintenance type thing. And I know that I've done jobs like that on my own. You know, so I mean, it's just a matter of knowing how to move heavy weights, how to line shafts, you know, which wires to hook where. So the installation costs really should be something that should be examined if there's not so much construction.
Bob, can you send the?
Oh, okay. Sure.
We don't have, I don't have, that, the estimate for $150,000 was the engineer's estimate for purchase and installation. Hopefully bids will be lower. The installation will be 2 or 3 sheets of drawings and specs. And you're right, it should be less than $75,000 for installation.
Absolutely.
And it's all basically done with engineer design anyway.
That's correct.
The
You'll
loan,
have to-
what they're supplying, the loan and stuff will all have to be done to spec, so.
Yeah, we have to have, the engineer will have drawings, plans, and specs, and we're advertised for installation.
You definitely need a qualified technician to put them in, but it should be 75,000.
Right. And it has to be engineer stamped and drawings to advertise.
And so just as I say on the 75,000 loan, it's actually a 5-year note, 120 month,
Correct.
with a option to pay back at any time with no penalty. So it can be paid off early.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you're having to borrow the money? Was that part of the grant process?
That was part of the grant process.
You couldn't use your own money that you have?
Oh, we could. But it was.
Because you have, the town should have CD money that it could use. Also, the sewer plant had a loan for a number of years that has recently been paid off, in which case there should be approximately $80,000 of revenue there that could be used towards this rather than borrowing money and making payments.
The council can.
Actually, the way this particular grant through
CERCAP.
CERCAP was a 50-50 match. You put up half, they match half up to $75,000, $150,000 project. You had to borrow the money through CERCAP to get the $75,000 match. You couldn't just spend your $75,000 and get the $75,000 grant. That's the reason we have a 5-year term with a payback with no penalty. The consensus behind it is we borrow the $75,000, get the $75,000 grant. At some point, next budget year, 2 budget years, we can take revenue money that we have and pay off that money. But you couldn't get it without actually borrowing the money initially, but they didn't say how long you had to keep it or no commitment on term. That explains why you didn't just pay your money out. To get this match for 50% and get $75,000 grant, you had to actually borrow through CERCAP, which is kind of just a somewhat formality.
But you could, in essence, borrow it and pay it back in the next month, since there's no prepayment on it,
Technically, I guess.
without paying the interest or tax on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have any, there's no interest penalty, can be paid back at any time. That's the way it's written up in that bond.
But you couldn't do that until after you got the grant.
No, you would have to be finished with the project and done with everything, so it gives you that, or the town has that option once project's finished and complete.
questions about the
Close
SOCAP?
public-
Okay, next is, because,
Close the public hearing, and Mayor, please.
close the public hearing
For the CERCAP.
for SOCAP, okay. Now we're gonna go to the proposal of our fiscal year 14-15 budget.
This is public hearing too, correct?
This is, yes. Pass that over there.
Is that the same one in the package?
Yes. Should be the same one in the package.
Maybe actually top. This open up for public comment too?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask council about the proposed budget. And again, it goes back to my question about the loan that was on the sewer plant. Whereas it was approximately $80,000 a year payment on that. And now that that is done, why can that money not be transferred to the water fund to cover for the first year's payment?
He's got it, okay.
Oh, signed what one?
Here's a copy. You got one?
Sorry, but
You gave him one? Oh, you good. Want some more?
gee, at least I know what
Because
to
it
do.
appears that you're going up on the water rate to compensate for the first payment that's due. So my question is,
They
why
better
couldn't
hope
the
it's
rate for water and sewer stay the same and you transfer from the sewer fund into the water fund? They're approximately the same amount of money. And while you're thinking about that, I'll go ahead and have a couple more questions for you. While the water side of the monthly bill is going up, I believe $7, it appears also that council's getting a raise for about $10 per month. Is that accurate?
He's referring to the line on the salaries and wages where it's 3660 versus 29.
I think we,
And I'm not sure what you had included in that.
in council, you
We
gave,
had briefly discussed about
Yeah.
council member increase, but I don't think it was ever decided. We just talked about that.
we left $35, well, I think the code says you can't raise council salary on sitting councilmen.
You can't, but I don't know that we even actually ever voted to do that. We just discussed it.
And then
The
we put
difference of
in,
that number though.
then we put in $50 for the new council members. We left it at 35 for the existing, like the code said, and,
So is that how you come up with the 3660?
yeah.
And, you know, I've sat on council before, I realize it's not enough money what you get paid. However, when I came on council, members were getting paid $75 a month. And we lowered it to 25 because we realized the burden on the citizens. And here you're increasing the water rate $6, $7 a month, but yet you're increasing new council members' pay by 10. That seems like a conflict of interest a little bit there.
35.
And it's already gone from $25 when I was on council approximately 6 years ago to now it looks like it's about $40 or so per month now.
35.
35.
$32.
Which brings up a point that I've been pondering about for a while. I noticed that our trash fees stayed at 3, but aren't we underpaying, in the budget, aren't we underpaying? Because isn't it really like $21,000 a year for, we're only budgeting $17,000?
Correct.
Have we changed anything there?
We didn't raise the trash fee.
Well, I mean, if you want to keep everything equitable, and you're going to raise fees, If you got one fee that's draining money from someplace else, that needs to be taken care of.
I don't have my calculator, but I think we're charging $3 a month for trash, which is roughly 18,000 a year.
Right.
And trash pickup actually cost about $4 or $3.60 some per household. So, you know, that's where the 21,500 comes in for the actual monthly or yearly fee. So it's a little bit less, about a little over 50 cents more, making it even compensation.
Right, right. I mean, unless you're gonna lump them all together and kind of like let them bleed off, but that's not good bookkeeping anyway. But you know, it just seems to me there's inequity along the line. On the website, when I take a look at the budget, I really don't know what I'm looking at because I can't see where the money is, where the money's coming from, where the money's going to. You just work for a balance. And what you take in is what you pay out, according to that balance. And that's the only thing a citizen can see.
I would recommend that council, and I know it's never been done, at least I don't think it's ever been done before, but go to a budget book that you can provide citizens with that explains each line item, where the money comes from, how it's calculated, how you derive that figure, and how it's being paid out. So that more information can be given out, because just looking at the budget, as he said, it's, you can make numbers add up to anything. It's where you're getting the information for the numbers.
Yeah, you know, that's probably a good point if he does on that, because you could, now that you're in QuickBooks with all the reference numbers that correlate with everything, you could actually develop a book that correlates all the number codes with the line items and explains exactly what goes in those line items. And, you know, that's good for basically council members. You know, anytime you have a change of people, somebody can pull that book, look at those codes, and you know kind of what's supposed to be going in those categories instead of just doing guesswork. So, yeah, that probably is a good point.
I think you guys went by spreadsheets. Remember the spreadsheets with the details on?
Right, but I'm saying even the line items, you know, what makes up all those items. If you had a book that matched every one of those categories and every one of those numbers, and it wouldn't be that hard to do, then at some point, anybody could look at that and reference, you know, what makes up printing and binding under finance. You would kind of really sub-key, this is what makes that up. Because it is, unless you really know, you can't know what makes up those categories. Even the council members can't know unless you really study.
Does council still have a vehicle replacement line? I did not see that in the budget.
What was that?
Vehicle replacement. At one time, it was $20,000 a year for vehicle replacement. Is that still in the budget?
We started it this next fiscal year. It wasn't in last year's budget or the year before.
How do you determine employees' use of town property and the wear and tear that's put on that by employees using it on their personal time?
A vehicle replacement plan?
If you're putting money aside to purchase vehicles, how are you determining if an employee uses said vehicle, the wear and tear that they may put on it?
Last month, we presented a vehicle replacement plan. I could probably give you a copy of that, which determined the value of the vehicle.
But I think what he's
Yeah,
saying.
what he's asking though, I think, is not so, we're setting aside a vehicle replacement fund.
Well, we
for
haven't.
replacement. What about the use of equipment within employees for personal use or whatever? How are you justifying or paying for expenses? He's putting two things together.
Oh, okay.
You know, the policy says it's not supposed to be used
For
for
personal.
personal use within it, and it gives some discretion to do that.
Where's that policy at?
It's in the personnel manual. And it's a policy that's been brought up several times about changing to become more clear on exactly what the policy is, and it probably does need to be updated. But, you know, his question is, and technically, it probably should be no personal use of town equipment for personal use across the board.
Right.
And basically, right now, there's no formula, which I'm guessing you're asking about. Is there a formula, like, for instance, government allows 56 pence, you know, or so per mile for using a personal vehicle for work. Is there something, you know, that is,
It's just not clear.
let's say, the inverse of that for using it? Is that,
Yeah, if you have an employee who uses the town mower, to mow the yard, and they
Right.
blow a belt off of it, who pays for it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hang on.
yeah, exactly. I mean, but, you know, but you're setting aside taxpayer dollars to allow for that in future years to repurchase. So it should be either nobody uses it, or it should be some sort of liability there, but if employee does use it, they have to pay it back for some program.
Next year.
Back to his question about the vehicle replacement.
Yeah,
Which line item under here did you have it? It was under some capital outlay?
we had it in
Possible.
finance, I think, Roger, or we had, we moved it to,
I mean, I know Jeff and I talked about that, but I still didn't see it in here either. It's capital outlay, machinery, equipment, furniture, fixtures, maybe.
yeah, I think that's it.
But one of those should say vehicles. And I see it under public safety, but that's the only place I see it.
Yeah. It's the same number that's in finance, 2959.
But
We had it all in public safety.
But it's listed as furnitures and fixtures.
Right.
Not vehicle. That's confusion, I guess.
Yeah,
Are
whether,
you looking at the bottom, page 4, where it's got the capital outline motor
Right.
vehicle, 2959 is that
Right.
figure?
Yeah, it says that under the police, but he's talking back up under finance under the same fixture. capital
yeah, they
outlay.
didn't have,
It's under furniture and fixtures, where it should say motor vehicle. I mean, that's just clear up the show. He's asking where it's at. It's in there, you just don't know
It's the
the way to
same.
read it.
It's the same figure.
Water rate has to be high enough to cover.
finance department didn't have a vehicle replacement line item, so we'll have to ask Mary to put one in there.
Yes, they need to be broke out under.
So
Also, the sewer plant is falling.
they had a vehicle replacement line item, and
It used to be in all the different categories. It was in finance, it was in public safety, it was in public works, it was in sewer and water.
Yeah, but
Originally, when we were done.
They had to raise it.
that's something that the book didn't provide me.
Well, that, you just need to get that, put in there with the right titles. And that's the problem with this saying, as far as trying to look at this and really see what's what, you can't quite follow it.
Utility fund.
Unless you really know exactly what's that.
Go ahead.
You were talking about replacing the pumps and different things for the sewer. I noticed in the expenses, there was, capital outlay for machine equipment, furniture and fixtures. What is that? If you're getting a grant and a loan for $150,000, what is this $77,000 that's in capital outlay?
And the sewer
Yes.
could be, it's in, we'll have to pull out his asset management plan to tell you where we have it. It's outlined, 80, okay. Excuse me. Laboratory equipment is $1,300. Capital outlay furniture and fixtures, one payment's $20,000 to pay back for the oxidation ditch. One payment's $20,000 to pay back the RCAP loan. And $3,200 is set aside. These are in the detail sheets that you guys have. You want the detail sheets?
And the RCAP loan was for,
That's how they got it. Yeah, we're going to try to make a payment, pay it off in 2 years or so.
okay, the 20,000 that when we borrow our own money to finance that oxidation ditch that we talked about.
We're paying
That's
ourselves
the
back.
20,000 that we've set aside to pay that back into our own funds over 3 years, I think it was. And then the RCAP loan was to pay back 20,000 on the 75,000 for inflow pumps. So that's where that 43,234 comes from.
Okay. The reason I ask that, it gets back to my point of the pumps and all should have a lifespan. 15, 20 years, something like that, should have a lifespan. We had a sewer facility loan, which was $80,000 a year expense. It is paid off. You're updating the facility, which is good, should be updated. What you could do in future years with that $80,000 that you used to be paying out on the sewer line? Where is that money going? And why can't that offset payment on the water side that you're having to put back money for?
last year. And I guess, you know, somewhat my explanation to that question was, Nick, you and I talked about it. We paid $20,000 on the influent pumps and $20,000 on the oxidation ditch. Short term over 3 years, and both of those should be paid back. Technically, the life on that's probably 15, 20, 25 years. You could have broke it out and spread it out over 25 years, and it would only cost you a couple $1,000s a year.
For the new one?
Instead of budgeting 80,000 there, you could have budgeted 20,000 and spread it out over 20 years and paid for it that way. That's his question he's asking. Yeah, this stuff has a long life. We're short-terming it up in a 3-year cycle, so you're having to budget a whole bunch of money. Once that's out of the question in a year or two, should that not come way down? Because other things you're doing should be spread out over the life of 15 or 20 years. But it goes back to the asset replacement plan, which puts money aside every year so that when that thing comes due in 10 years, you have the money back.
Correct.
So
We're playing catch-up from the past 10 years, and that's why it's.
So the town has a capital improvement, a comprehensive plan for asset?
For the wastewater treatment plant, yes.
This is the one for the
Wastewater
wastewater treatment plant. And Jeff, although he's, you know, not here, would probably be the best person to answer your question. So if it seems like we might be fumbling through it, it's because he's a little bit more.
And it's
on
basically,
that.
you know, that was just created this year.
Right.
And it looks at the whole, you know, wastewater treatment plant and the future.
And the lab,
assets,
too.
The lab and everything. Doing probably what we should have had 15 years ago, 20 years ago when the plant was done. We should have had that same asset management plan that would have said, this kind of money you need to be putting aside. And probably at that time, rates wouldn't have been $5, $6, $8. They'd have been 15, 18
Yeah.
then, and we'd have had the money today, and we wouldn't be trying to figure out how to pay for it.
I understand that, and I understand that you're doing the short-term financing, and you need
And
that
I guess the
money
question
right now.
here is,
My question is, after you get that short-term financing paid off, where is that excess money gonna go? It should be the sewer rate comes down.
and he's, you know, there again, he's correct in that, and it will depend on how that asset management stacks up to where we go down the road as to how much we have to, it may not be $80,000 a year,
Right.
you know, and it very well could, you know, and what comes in on the sewer side, you know, long-term capital projects in sewer, because we're doing water, so it's gonna be set by meters, but again, that can be readjusted, and the kind of rates and the per thousand that you charge could come down to help compensate for that, and that's, I guess, all hypothetical.
I'd like to say something about, it's all nice to know what we've done in the past and what we're doing. I think it's great we're taking care of infrastructure. But if we have any extra money available, we need to look at our future and what is Glasgow going to be? We don't advertise for this town even though it's an ideal location for kayakers, for campers, for hikers, for people just coming to see beauty. Got some history around here. We do not present to the world Glasgow as a viable community. You know why? We don't have nothing here. We have no hotel, we have no bank. We need to bring more industry into Glasgow. And that will increase our tax base. Sorry, I had to say it.
Give any other questions?
Just one. On last year's budget, the loan proceeds of the $3.3 million, I guess that's for the water improvement, showed up, and it looked like only $217,000 of it was actually, or year-to-date has actually been used. I didn't see the excess balance on this budget. Is there a reason why?
Which budget is that?
This is the proposed budget. There should be approximately $3.1 million left of that loan.
And he asked me that question, and I really could answer him, but, you know, somewhere as that $2.5 to $3.5 million coming in as we submit bills, they send it to us, so we bring it in from them as we get billing statements, so we send around and pay the people, but it's not gonna show up anywhere in that budget. Somewhere that has to show up, doesn't it?
It will. In the existing expense report, you'll see the budget of $3.3 million. It's not in the, is that the proposed
Yeah,
budget?
there's nothing in the proposal about
It will be stuck in the proposed budget as a separate line item. You know, it's just like the expense report.
But should it have not showed up in
It's not in the,
revenue side and the expense side in the current budget?
because we don't know what our expenses, well, we can put in 3.3 and expenses will be 3.3, maybe.
Do you not have a budget contract for the installation of it?
Mhm.
Shouldn't that reflect over the next 12 months? Of
We
how much
do-
money's gonna come in, how
well,
much money's
see,
gonna be paid out?
They submit monthly payments, we don't know what they're gonna be each month. But we have a total budget of 3.3, I think it is.
But what was the contractor's?
2.4 million. So then there's 600,000 of engineering fees. There's a spreadsheet we do every month for VRA,
Right, but I'm saying the total package of that project would have been
3.3.
3.3. That was the bidded price plus everything.
Right.
And 3.3 is how much total they're going to,
That's how much money we borrowed.
we borrowed from them.
Mhm.
So I guess what the question is, should 3.3 not show up as budget amount for expenses? Because that's supposedly what the project's going to be when you get done.
Yeah, there's no money there now. I mean, we only get, it's a drawdown.
I'm just not sure how you account for it in accountability, though. That's his question. It's nothing shows
We
where
have
anything's coming.
there's a whole separate spreadsheet for VRA that we do every month. And to write the checks, the auditors put the line item for the project and then the amount that we disperse every month.
Yeah, but that expense is going to show up in actual expenses for, in our new budget from 14
It
to
will be.
15. It'll be showing up, but you won't have anything budgeted already.
Right.
It'll just be showing up as expenses.
Mhm.
But what's that gonna do to the revenue side? Is it gonna pop in every time we get a disbursement coming in?
Yeah, revenues, each time we get a disbursement, it'll be taken out.
So this budget's not accurate because it doesn't reflect that.
It's a whole separate capital project. It's not part of the town's budget. It's not an operating budget, it's a CIP budget. So this is an operating budget.
So,
It is a
is that how, like,
VRA, that's the way they want it.
but I mean, is that how like bigger localities do like capital projects, so it's not running to the regular budget?
It's not in the
a separate
operating budget, it's separate CIP. We have a separate spreadsheet for VRA. It's in your expense report, as you can see, but it's not in the budget. We can throw it in the budget, 3.3 million.
And that could be correct. I mean, I'm not sure how like large projects are done.
They have a separate CIP accounting, which we have with VRA, separate
Just
spreadsheet.
specifically for those projects.
Right.
It's not all mixed in with the regular budget?
It's not mixed in as an operating budget. But we put it in there this year because we have to write checks. So to write checks, it has to go in the QuickBooks. And then we get, we do the spreadsheet for VRA when they do a disbursement. And they wire the money to our checking accounts. And the last disbursement was $217,000.
That's my question. There should be a balance on that of like 3.1 million.
There
And
is.
then that should show in revenues, because that money's gonna wash in, and then you're gonna write a check out of it. I mean, it's a total wash, but it should show in revenue that's coming in and an expense going out.
It
You
is.
should know that, how much that's gonna be for the next 12 months.
That, I don't know that. I mean, we have $3.3 million to spend until September of 2015. So next year, we may spend $2 million, we don't know. I mean, the contractor doesn't say how much he's going to draw down every month, because he hasn't done a disbursement for May yet.
But, okay, I mean, maybe the contractor didn't, but the contractor should have provided you with a planned budget of how the project was gonna go and the completion percentage.
The engineer
Per
did
month.
an estimate.
So you do have that.
Somewhere, way back in the project documents, when they came up with the government estimate for the project. But no, I don't have, for the next 12 months, I don't know how much I'm gonna spend out of 3.3 million. This month's disbursement was 66,000. 11,000 was for hurt profit, 47 for the contractor.
Excuse me, you just said that you don't know how much you're going to spend. Who actually authorizes the disbursements?
I did,
You authorize the disbursements.
right. Actually, VRA does.
I don't quite understand. Why do we have a council?
For the disbursements,
Yeah.
they approved the $3.3 million.
And then they give to you when you decide how you're going to use it.
Well, I signed the disbursements.
Well, I guess the disbursement letter that comes monthly,
Yeah.
that shows you what the charges will start, and this is how much we paid for this month.
Right.
The disbursement schedules, I guess is what.
I don't
it
have
says.
the disbursement schedule.
But you get one at the end of each month to know what to write the check for.
Right. The engineer prepares it.
For whoever prepares it, they send it to you and say, okay, you owe us $82,500.
Right.
There's a schedule that comes up to that total.
There's a, right.
I guess what he's saying is, does council have anything to do with it, approving those as they go?
No, because they've already been approved, but I didn't understand how, what was initiating you to be responsible for that. I didn't know that the engineer was issuing,
The engineer, he approves the disbursement and sends it to me. I do a spreadsheet for VRA along with the engineer's cert and his disbursement, mail it to Richmond. Then it goes to the health department in Richmond, then it goes to VRA, and within 2 weeks, they wire the money into our account, and then we write the checks.
okay, I just, I needed to see the process.
And the simple process is to answer, I guess,
It's
all
a-
this question is that the spreadsheet that they prepare for you with the monthly disbursement could just be stuck in everybody's council packet, so you know monthly what the
Absolutely.
disbursements were and what was paid at what point,
Absolutely.
that's council's input in knowing where we are month to month.
I can put the monthly disbursement packages in the council, and they vary, whatever the engineer sends to me.
Well, I think that's a good thing. I think council should be aware of what is going where when. I think they don't get paid enough, we all know that, but they shouldn't be working on half information either.
It's a package to VRA and health department. I think it goes to the health department first with the spreadsheet, contractors, invoice, engineer certification on top of it, like any capital project. And there's a cover letter to the health department.
Paul, amongst all the disbursements that you make, what other disbursement duties do you have?
That's it.
That's the only one. Everything else council has to say, well, yeah, we want to do this or we don't want to do this. Okay.
Well, I mean,
Can we get a copy of the monthly bills over and
Yeah.
above that?
yeah, we'll go over the bills like in just a few minutes and all those things, if there's anything that needs
Yeah.
to be approved. But I think under the general job description of the town manager, there's given an understanding that since we're not full-time employees of the town,
Right.
we're not gonna come in and meet
On
hourly.
basic day-to-day.
Yeah, right.
Anything
Right,
better.
right.
Other
But
things.
you would if you felt,
Payroll and stuff, yeah.
you would if you felt it was necessary or duty to, right?
Well, certainly, yeah.
Okay,
I
good.
mean,
Well, that's good to know.
but I'm not gonna do it for $35 a month.
3232.
So, any other questions?
No, my two biggest concerns was the fact that council perceived as getting a raise when you're going up on the water bill for all the customers. And then the $80,000 from the sewer loan, that it should be revenue 2 or 3 years down the road that can be applied to the water and sewer rate so that one of the two decreases. It may not be 80,000, but it should be a good amount of that.
How long ago did we pay off the 80,000?
In the last year, it's been a year. I mean, it wasn't in this calendar year, it was the last payment in the second part of the year before last.
11, 12, maybe?
Yeah, I guess it would have been the second half of 11, 12. Because we didn't pay any this calendar year we're in now.
Right. That was a loan, obviously, we borrowed
Yeah,
the county
25-year sewage treatment plant
for the upgrade of the sewage plant.
for the buildings as well, I guess upgraded at that time. It was a $132,000 for a yearly payment. County paid $35,000, we paid 80 something.
Any more questions about the budget?
I have two. I know you got the different committees, finance, street, and sewer. Was Roger Ford, did he write the proposed budget this year? Everybody kept looking at him for answers.
He was mostly involved. I mean, we had 2 or 3 budget workshops.
The other question I had was, I know if you just raising council pay, it had to come up. how much the mayor gonna get, not the next year's, that'll be in next year's, but how much you propose to raise her pay, or his pay?
The same.
Why you say the same? I mean,
We discussed raising council pay to $50, and council discussed that in a budget workshop. And then we looked at the code, if you guys remember correctly, and said, no, we can't raise the pay of the current council members, correct? So we left the current council members at $35, and the 3 new ones, we budgeted in $50, no special pay for the mayor.
so when the new budget comes out next year, you'll have to discuss the mayor getting a raise.
Okay?
It seems to me like there's an awful lot of town business, and I gotta hand it to you guys for the amount of time that you feel that you need to put into the job. There seems to be a lot of interesting and important things we're gonna have to look at in our future. Is there any reason why we can't have a full-time mayor? I mean, other than having to, advertise it, change the charter or whatever. It seems to me like we need actually a full-time leader in the town hall. It's nice, I mean, you guys do a great job, for the little time that you have to put into it. But there's some big things going on, and the future is going to change. Technology is going to change. The world's changing right as we sit here. We need a leader that's going to be there full-time. That's just my opinion.
Because right after the days run on the paper, Buckhannon's got less taxpayers than we got.
I'm sure if the time came to the point where we needed a full-time manager, or a full-time mayor, certainly the council would consider that as well.
Any more questions about the budget? So I'll close that hearing. Now we move to our regular meeting, please. April the 15th and April the 28th. Regular meeting or special meeting?
Can I say one thing, Bill?
Sure, go right
I'd just like to thank all the ones that came tonight for the budget meeting and the comments that you made. Appreciate the interest from the citizens.
Right.
Thank you, Roger.
Any corrections to our regular meeting for April the 15th? But for our special meeting that was April the 28th, any corrections, comments?
Probably needs to reflect that I voted yes on the second page. That's all.
Special meeting.
What?
Is that the special?
Yes.
28th.
special.
28th.
Special.
Just missed today.
I didn't refrain.
Oh, we left out that you voted.
Right.
Yeah, that was-
You did vote. Do y'all have a motion to approve the minutes for the April 15th meeting and for the 28th, all with the correction on page 2? Do you have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as they read.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Does anyone opposed? Thank you.
We can never start on the sewer, it's gonna take it back. Still.
Consideration of the bills. questions about the bills?
How long has it been since fuel was filled up? We don't do that every month, do we?
Just about. I mean, the gas and the diesel tanks of the treatment plant?
Is that usually a monthly thing,
Yes, sir.
or somewhere that late?
Thereabouts, Roger.
Keep it in there, how much time is that left for them? Keep that in grass.
Well,
Pardon me, Ron? The Department of Corrections, they're scheduled every 2 weeks if we get them for cutting grass, weed eating. $1.50 an hour.
Do I hear a motion to approve the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the bill.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is anyone opposed?